did you feel like you didn't have enough money? Do you feel differently about that? I mean, there's always room to make more money.
Maybe like I just had enough money, you know? Like I just had enough money to pay off this thing for this thing. Like that would happen often where I would save enough and then something would happen. Something happened with the car, something happened with this thing, something happened with my health. And I've had a lot of health struggles. It's been kind of a long journey. I had a surgery that went wrong, that all this number of things went wrong.
So what's the most you had saved at one point in time that you like saved on your own? Before we started. Well, what's up, everybody? It's your girl here, Breanna Colón, and I am excited to be with you again today for another podcast episode talking about money, and money. And today I have a special guest. She's one of our Integrity Financial clients, part of the family now, and her name is Linda. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody.
Yep. Thank you to those that are watching on YouTube, and for those that are listening by podcast, thank you so much for joining us. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I want to talk a little bit about a lot about your journey and everything. And I guess if you want to start with how you ended up meeting me and how did you feel about your finances at the time that we met?
Okay. So you came to us about 8 months ago?
Was it? It might have been a little bit before that, maybe a month before, but somewhere around there, yeah.
And we were able to sign up for financial advising through you. And
just to clarify, she's talking about through her job, because we have a employee financial wellness program that we offer to employers. And so her child care center signed up for the program, and we were able to offer it to the employees of the daycare, and she was one of those that signed up.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I'm so glad that I stuck with it, because it has really changed how I feel about being able to take care of my finances, and not just my finances in general, because it didn't necessarily have the financial advice before, or the ability to kind of track my finances very well. And the fact that you came in as a non-judgmental way of helping us, and the way that you got behind me in championing me for being better in what I'm doing, was amazing. And over the last couple of months, I've been able to do more than I've been able to do in most of my life, and I'm really, really thankful for that. It's been an amazing journey with you. But at the time, I felt very insecure about my financial blindness that I have. I think it's a little bit hard for some people to be able to navigate that. We're all different people. We all have different brains. We're in a neurodiverse time in our lives. While some are able to do certain things, some are able to do other things, and we need each other to be able to get through and do all the things that we need to do as adults in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time, when I go back and look, because now it's been about 10 months that we've been working together, and that's not a really long time, but you've made some major accomplishments in a short period of time. And so, obviously, because that's why you're here, so we're very proud of you. But at the time, you had about $400 in your savings account. I'm sure there's some people that can relate to that might not even have $30 in their savings account right now. So it's important to note about where you started in the process, because I'm sure there are others that are listening that are like, oh, but she's where I was.
Yeah, absolutely. I have worked all my life since I was 15 years old, from working at my aunt's daycare center in high school to being able to take a class that allowed me to work in doctor's offices and hospitals, and as well as working a real retail job. I worked a couple jobs at parks and planning centers, all doing admin assistant type work. Essential for everybody else that's working to do the things around that, and but something that was not very well paid. So though I have had that, and even then going into being a teacher, preschool teachers are kind of at the bottom of the barrel of the education system as far as pay goes. And pre-pandemic, the rates were very, very low, very, very low. But and it was only around 2000, maybe 18, that they started trying to pay a lot more. And then after that, after the pandemic especially, people weren't going to put their lives in danger, because we probably face as much in early childhood care as people do in elder care in some cases. So it is a job that requires a lot of physical work and a lot of coming into contact with contaction, but it's never been
You're trying to
something.
say snotty kids?
I am. I love all my children,
no, we love the kids, really. I'm just being funny.
But they're just learning humans, and they're gross sometimes,
absolutely.
and it's okay.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Obviously,
but
you
know what? It
kids.
is a concern about health, and
what
it can, and it's been a passion of mine. So, and I'm thankful for my parents who were able to set me up in a position where I could choose a passion instead of having to just get something that is going to absolutely support everything, because there's no way that I could live on my own if I didn't have my parents and then still be a teacher. I don't think I'd be a teacher, honestly, if I didn't have that support. And then if I didn't have people in my life like Breanna that helped me and championed me through to help me get to a better place.
Gotcha. So growing up, culturally, you're Indian, is that right? Okay.
Yes, my parents came from India in the late 70s.
Okay.
And then my sister and I were born here, and we were, both my parents worked really hard, but they both worked in the hospital. My mom worked 2 jobs, and my dad worked 1 job, while we worked up enough money to be able to buy a house in the 80s, and we still have that house to this day. Actually, my mom just realized that she had overpaid the mortgage and was given money back.
Oh wow!
Well, so we just finished doing that. My parents got us to that point. They separated at some point in our journey, but
did
we
you
still
grow
have
up learning about money?
I knew we had enough, but not enough.
Okay.
It was we were middle class family, and I didn't have the training. I think that my parents had from being, coming from India and living the way that they did, the way that they had to live, and the purpose of saving money and the journey they took was a lot different than the way I grew up, and because of how they sacrificed, and because of how they did it. But as they thought they were giving us things better than they had, part of that was not necessarily teaching us very well how to manage our finances.
Gotcha. But that I find that to be common among the parents, that parents always want better for their children than they have for themselves.
They mean well, and I'm thankful. I'm absolutely thankful for it.
Yeah, of course. I think parents do the best that they know how to do, and sometimes it's just not knowing that, I need to teach my child how to have a budget. I need to teach my child how to put money in savings. Some of that just gets missed involuntarily, And
also there is the fact of sometimes within parental advice sneaks in judgment and guilt, and then you don't feel like talking to people about that if that's what you're getting back from them.
Right.
So the attitude of help is a lot when a child is developing. So the attitude of how you're giving a child help forms a lot of how they deal with problems and how they deal with getting help when they need it. So I had I was never without as a child.
Okay.
But I didn't learn the value of money, and I was afforded the ability to be able to live in that kind of ignorance is bliss place for a while.
So would you say, are you the oldest, youngest, or?
I'm the youngest of two.
So you're the baby.
I'm the baby.
So on behalf of the babies of America, I mean, do you feel like, it's often said that the babies are spoiled, the youngest ones are the most spoiled. Do you feel that was the case for you?
In some ways, yes, that I feel like I observed a lot of, what my sister went through and tried to navigate it differently. Okay. But also, I think as part of the Indian culture, they put a lot on the firstborn child, and they put a lot of focus into them, and unintentionally, there's a little bit less focus on the younger child as far as, being able to see how far they're going. Sometimes they'll invest a lot, and that's not, I'm not saying that I'm angry about that or anything like that.
Right.
Again, love my parents.
Yeah, of course.
But
of course.
That's the way it ended up being. Where my sister went off to school, they paid for her schooling and everything, and I got some help with my schooling as well. But at the time in the family, while my sister was away, I was at home, and so I needed to be at home helping, and I needed to help financially. So my education got cut a little short. I have my degree, but I had to cut it a little short.
Path.
Yeah, I had to take a little bit of a different path. It was definitely not very linear. I started college in 2000, but I was only there till 2001, and then I took a break for about 5 years before I went back to college, and started with interior design, and then went over to education. So it was there was a journey through all of it, but it wasn't necessarily a linear path of high school, college life.
Yeah. But you brought up a good point, because I believe everybody goes through a phase of finding themselves, where, and it happens at varying ages. For some, it's, 22, some is 27, some is 32, where you're trying to, you get to this point of trying to figure out what exactly is it that I want to do. I thought I wanted to do this, but now I realize this. For me, it was, I wanted to originally be an accountant, or so I thought. And then I realized once I worked in accounting for a while, like, this is not it. I'm bored. I'm sitting behind the desk. I'm not, and I kept trying to search and figure out, like, what is it? Do I just need to work from home? Is it the commute? Is it, what is it? And, for me, it was because I was a people person, and being an accountant didn't really allow me to really exercise that in the way that I am now. And so I also didn't realize that I'm a teacher as well, but I'm a teacher educationally of adults as it pertains to finance. And I didn't realize that at that time. Both of my parents are educators. And it's in my mind, because they were in the school system, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher. My mother was a retired elementary school principal, and my father was a retired middle school history teacher. And so they were dealing with the kids, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to deal with the kids. And so in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a teacher. But little did I realize I would still end up being a teacher, just in a different way that it manifested. So my point is, everybody has this time period that they go through of finding yourself, and it's okay as long as you don't stay there forever, in the finding, you know what I mean? Correct. You got to kind of move that along, figure it out, and take some action steps and get going, which is obviously what you did to now be, at the daycare and with the teachers, with the kids.
and it was a journey. I am now going to be 42 in November. Okay. And I feel at this point in my life, as far as where, getting how much I'm getting paid goes, I'm just now making what my friends were in their 20s, like who had chosen other careers that were more lucrative. But as far as choosing to be a teacher, it's just now, and especially a preschool teacher, we're just now starting to get paid. Right. That well. And to be able to now get to this place and have the capacity to understand how everything has worked before, and what I did wrong, and why I was feeling the way I was about it. To have somebody that was championing me and like getting behind me and saying, well, we're going to prove everybody wrong. Right. And, it's one of those things that you have to have the right kind of help.
Right.
You know, you can't just help somebody the way you think that they need to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
You need to help them the way they need to be helped.
That's good
And
right there.
that is what you provided, is
Mm-hmm.
that help, and it is necessary. Now, you say you can't teach adults. I could never not teach. Or you can teach adults, but I could not teach children.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot teach anybody taller than me, and I'm 4'11", so it was early childhood or nothing. But I have enjoyed it, and it is part of my. It's part of my family heritage too. My grandmother was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Both grandmothers. My grandfather was a pastor. That's definitely like a teacher, and my dad was an engineer. He actually was a principal and was headmaster at a school in India. My mom was a nurse, and she, you know, has been a big teacher to me all my life. And then my aunt, my mom's older sister, was had her master's degree in early childhood education, and also, so I was kind of brought up in it and around it.
Yeah.
And it was my first job, and even though I went around to so many other vocations, I ended up back at it because it is part of me and in my blood, and I'm able to help that way. You know, I'm able to reach out to children. And it's something that I could never do anything older than this.
I got you.
It's that special place, and you need somebody, whatever age that is,
right,
to be able to do that for you. Because not everybody processes everything the same way.
Yeah,
that's
true.
And so, like,
that's true.
Non-judgmental help is so very, very underrated.
So let's talk about that right there, where you're talking about non-judgmental help. So you've said that a few times in the conversation. So do you feel like you've been being judged prior to, you know, whether that's family, friends, whoever, in the way you make this? In what way do you feel you've been judged from a financial standpoint?
And not, you know, financial competence is important, yes, but in my processing, in my mind, and learning about myself as a teacher, and has kind of helped me, or learning about teaching and children has helped me understand how my brain works.
Okay.
So I have, in the last couple of years, gotten down my diagnosis with ADHD, and I've had depression and anxiety most of my life. And through all my studies, I feel like, I don't have a diagnosis yet, but I feel like I'm definitely somewhere on spectrum. And it is one of those things in that where you have financial blindness. And you don't necessarily prepare for, like, that combination of things has helped in that way. I'm not saying because I've known the things all my life. It's just I've never been addressing them. It just wasn't addressing them, and I wasn't in my mind prioritizing them in a way that was going to benefit me when I got older. Because yes, I've been working all my life, but why do I not have something to show for it? Is because I'm living paycheck to paycheck instead of putting it into what the future was going to be.
Did you feel like you weren't making enough money as your reason? Like, what were your
That
reasonings?
is definitely part of it. That is definitely part of it, because you just have just enough to, as things were getting more and more expensive over the years, it was just harder and harder to be able to have the things that everybody was having with that. And I think that a little bit of a crutch was being able to have my family. I mean, I'm not saying I would have liked to have been without them so I could be more independent.
Sure.
But it was there as a safety net, and that's the way I processed it.
Do you think that, because I know that you are still living at home,
Correct.
And, you know, we're not saying that like it's a bad thing.
No, and
because in your particular case, it's really a blessing because you have the choice.
Correct.
You know, you could be living on your own if you wanted to, but you are helping, you know, participating, I should say.
Yeah, no, as a family, we have, you know, though my parents have separated, my sister now takes care of my father after he had a couple of strokes a couple years ago, and I stay with my mom, and we all kind of look after each other. You know, my sister just went on vacation, and we were able to take care of my dad, and, you know, not every family has that kind of thing to be able to do and to take care of each other, but we've tried. Even though it can get sticky sometimes with things, but that's families, and as long as everybody's trying to be copacetic, we're good. But it's one of those things where you have to trade off.
Right, right.
And so I don't mind being where I am. I'm not having to pay what everybody else is paying and for rent.
Which is a blessing for you, given that you're a teacher, and you know a lot of times people talk about teacher salary, which daycare salary is different, is even lower than what the teachers in the elementary, middle school, and the public school system setting are getting. But what I am proud of for you is you're a testament that, again, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep, which is why I was asking you the question about, how you felt about, did you feel like the not having enough money, or did you feel like you didn't have enough money? Do you feel differently about that? I mean, there's always room to make more money.
Maybe like I just had enough money. Like I just had enough money to pay off this thing for this thing. Like that would happen often, where I would save enough and then something would happen. Something happened with the car, something happened with this thing, something happened with my health. And I've had a lot of health struggles. It's been kind of a long journey. I had a surgery that went wrong, that all this,
just a number of
things went wrong.
So what's the most you've had saved at one point in time that you saved on your own? Before we started.
Before we started, it's probably like about 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That I had saved on my own, 3,000, 4,000.
And what would you say happened to it that it went away?
It was either going into cars, or not my cars, but things that needed fixing. Yes. Yeah. And then I feel like a lot of where my money goes now that I am where I am, is going into food, like groceries and eating out. And I did do a lot of that, and I'm doing less now. But the one thing I'm doing more is just putting the money aside.
Right.
And so I'm able to do the other things too.
Right.
With being able to, but I never spent my money on things. It was never, I'm buying expensive clothes or expensive things for myself. I'm very much a thrifty girl. I got this at Ross. And,
nothing wrong with Ross.
Yeah. But I don't need the most expensive things. I don't feel like I'm not fancy and I'm not, I feel like I'm okay with that.
Gotcha.
So it was never that I'm buying things that I don't need. Most I spent on was food. I need food, but I don't need to eat out, obviously. But it was never I'm just spending more on things that I had,
Gotcha. Okay. So I want to go back for a second to the whole living at home piece, because I've had this has come up in some sessions with some of my parent clients, I'll say, that have adult children that are living at home. And this is really just more me just discussing it, not necessarily specific to you. But I think it's important to note that if you have an adult child living at home, there still has to be some level of financial responsibility.
Absolutely,
because otherwise they get comfortable, but they're living in a false reality, because you don't have the regular bills that you would have as an independent adult. And so it causes you to spend differently, because you don't have maybe a car loan, you don't have credit cards, or maybe you do have credit cards, or maybe you decide to buy a car because you think you can afford it, but it's affording it based on the fact of living at home and not paying rent. Or parents who don't charge their kids rent, which is not your case. You're actually paying rent, but but there are I have had instances of parents who have adult children who are staying at home and they're not paying anything, but they're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Parents, I'm saying this for the benefit of the parents that are listening. This is not okay. Unless you want them living with you forever, if that's the plan, that's fine, but there still has to be some level of financial responsibility. So I like watching with your transition. I know one of the things you mentioned to me before was about how you feel now, feeling a little more confident, because you're able to do more things independently that you weren't able to do before.
Correct, and also that's going as far as my mom wanting me to keep the house after she passes, and she wants me to be able to take care of it. since they were able to buy it in the 80s, and they've, you know, even though they had to refinance half, you know, part of the way through and this, that, and other, our mortgage is paid off, because she's been able to be really good with her finances and taken us here. And she is, you know, wanting me to be able to keep it, and that now that the mortgage is paid off, I'll be able to be in a place by then, or even, you know, whenever it happens, God forbid, but I'll be in a better place to be able to take over just the monthly payments. For the house, and I was not confident in that 10 months ago. I was not confident in that 10 months ago. It was very much, and I felt, you know, that everybody knew that, and everybody I feel like everybody's, you know, not necessarily waiting for me to fail, but like, you know, watching to see where I take it. So, but I don't think I would have had this confidence in where I am and been able to get here if I didn't have the help, because people need specific help to get to places where they feel like, everybody feels like this is normal, but not everybody has a struggle to get to this normal. Right.
Well, you're in an absolutely blessed position, because not many people are in that position where, you know, where their parents are like, hey, you know, I'm going to leave this house to you, so you're welcome to live here, it's already paid for, you know, just help with this, that, the other, or whatever, which really worked well for you to be able to make this transition in this 10-month period. So when we got started, and I don't recall, I think, if I recall correctly, I think you were not on a written budget, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, got you. So how was that process for you, if you recall, from 10 months ago when I got you started on a budget, and I'm like, okay, you got to do this, and this, take out cash, all of that. Like, how was that process for you?
She's smiling because she knows where I'm at now. but it was very helpful. So I am not good with numbers. I love the written word, the spoken word, all about the words. I hated math. I still hate math, but numbers were always kind of scary to me. And so, like, having to do a spreadsheet and doing all this other stuff, that was always part of my hindrance as a child, as my parents were going through and writing in the composition books about it and tallying everything. It was daunting to me. But, you know, going through, and admittedly, it was because of procrastinating that I sometimes panic entered things into the computer. But it was helpful to see where things were going and how I could adjust. It was absolutely integral in that, in helping me see where things were going in a physical way, and then also being able to see the number growing from where I was as we're taking notes in the spreadsheets. Was amazing to be able to just to see, okay, this is where we're going. This is how I'm cutting this down. This is how I'm getting into this thing. And it made me think differently about, you know, the way I'm shopping for stuff, the way I'm going through. I try to do all of my stuff online and then go pick up, so I don't walk through the store and just impulse buy anything. But, you know, it's one of those things where it also helps my anxiety. You know, it's one of those things that, like, I really don't like, having to go do certain things. So being able to have that ability to see where I'm going, I know exactly how much I spent, I don't have to worry about it. It was so helpful. And then I got off track in entering things. And I got really off track because I just stopped entering things. But I kept up with the program. I kept up with the savings. And I kept up with making sure that I was trying to leave aside money for this, which helped in when emergency came up recently, where I had to shell out like $1,000 for my car. And it was so nice to be able to say, I don't need help from anybody. I got this, and not feel panicked about it. Because like I said, it's always been, I always have just enough.
Gotcha.
So like but I was able to cover it. And I had enough confidence in what I had left to not feel panicked about it. And that was also an amazing feeling to be able to have that. And
really good.
People who have been at this point for like 20 years have, I don't know, it's a different kind of feeling for me, because I feel like this is what people are experiencing in their 20s with this kind of money, except I get to be on the other side of it.
That's okay.
I'm
We're
kind
not
of
worried about them at their 20s.
Yeah,
This is you now
but
in your 40s. And
I feel
good.
like that's what helps me appreciate it more. I think
I
that
gotcha.
my journey as a woman, as a person in general,
Mm-hmm.
has been able to keep me, available to understand and to learn.
That's good.
And like that, that has been absolutely a key thing. And the writing things down, I got used to it. I got used to it for a while, and then I got off track. But it is how you track things.
That's right. Let me pause you right there. We need to go to break for a minute, but we're going to come right back, and we're going to jump right into some more of this.
Okay.
We'll be right back. And we're back. If you're just tuning in, we are talking to Linda, who is one of our Integrity Financial family clients, and we've just been talking a little bit about her journey and how things were growing up as a child, and that she's now a teacher at one of the daycares, taking care of the little people, as I like to call them. And so we wanted to jump into a little bit of the process and kind of what we've been doing along the way over this last 10 months. First, starting with, as I mentioned earlier, you started with, I think it was $300 or $400 in savings, and you have now in 10 months gotten up to $7,177. High five! Don't leave me hanging. Yes, that is wonderful. Oh, excuse me, and 66 cents. Okay, we can't leave the change out. That is just as important. Every penny matters.
It does.
Wow, but that is amazing. First of all, how does it feel to have? Because earlier I asked you what's the most amount of money that you had in savings, and you told me about $3,000 or $4,000. So how does it feel now that in 10 months you've accumulated $7,000?
It feels amazing. And I actually, since I had a little car thing happen, I would have had even more. But I'm just saying, I've gotten to that point, and the fact that I didn't have to ask anybody for help is amazing.
So that was a thing for you before then?
That was absolutely a thing for me.
You had to ask family members for money?
My mom's helped me pay for medical bills. My dad, of course, has helped me pay for things. And the one and only credit card that I got a million years ago, I got capped at like $3,000, and my aunt ended up helping me pay that off. And
so do you think that when those things happen, because you were an adult when those happened, right?
Correct.
So do you think in that time period when those things were happening, do you think that may have caused them to feel like, she's probably gonna need help, like for an undecided amount of time, so to have this transition to like, not that you're saying this verbally, but in your mind, it's like, I don't need their help anymore. I can do this myself.
Yes. And that was really what got me behind us as beaming up, is that you did that. Because as I explained my position to you, and you understood as, how hardworking I am, and not to toot my own horn, but toot. And we people that work all their life need help and support in ways that sometimes they can't articulate. Yeah. And so when you came in and helped in that way that I needed, it was such a positive experience. I have a cheerleader. Right. I have somebody who's going to be like, oh, we're about to show them. Like, we're about to just be able to just be done with having to, not that I'm not going to reach out for help, because you do need to reach out for help when you reach out for help. But,
so you had an emergency though. You had an emergency in this 10 months, which brings up a valid point as to why it's so important for everybody to have a savings account. Sometimes people don't understand the amount they should be saving. That's part of the problem. Sometimes people don't place as much value on savings because they feel like, oh, well, I really need to get rid of this debt. And so they'll take whatever extra money they get and they want to automatically plug it on the debt. I just got to hurry up and pay this off. But what happens in the interim if we have an emergency in between? Well, if you didn't save along the way, now you have to go back to using that same credit card that you just paid off 2 months ago because you were in such a hurry to pay it off. So my point is, this is a testament to why it's so important to save, because we're talking about 10 months here that you saved up money, and because you saved up money, do you remember how much what was the car repair, right?
Yeah.
And how much was the car repair?
It was about $1,100.
Right,
Yeah.
$1,100 within this 10-month window, and mind you, we said you started with $400.
Yes.
So if you had not been saving all this time, you'd been trying to figure out again, like,
I would have been asking for help, and I would have been saying who can give it to me, and because I was not in a good place. Like when, a little bit about my financial blindness has to do with just dealing with the things that are normal and just saying that, okay, these are the routine things that I need to be able to just sustain.
Yeah.
And so you're not thinking about things going wrong.
Right.
You're not thinking about something can happen to my car, but obviously anything can happen anytime. And again, having the right support through those things matters the most. Because
how did you feel at the car dealership when you went to go and pay? You know, did you feel a little differently because it wasn't like borrowed funds? You know, like
absolutely. I was like, okay. Now, mind you, they didn't. They didn't do the anyway. So I'll leave that alone.
So service is a whole nother conversation.
A lot about how I felt about it was, thanks. That's it. Thanks for doing all the things on my car. I can I can pay you that money right here, right now. Whereas at other points, I'd be like, no, I don't need that thing. You don't need to do that. I would have put it off to the next. I'll be like, and I probably should have done this time too, but said, do what you need to do to get me out of here, and that's it. That's all I want.
Right.
So I was proud of myself to be able to be like, do all the things.
Yeah.
Which led me to a different place, but it's okay. But the fact that I was able to just say, go ahead, yes, I can fix my own car. You know, I have worked to pay off my car, and I've been able to do that with some help too. But now, you know, being able to take over an emergency coming up, was great. Not having to say I need help, not having to say, I felt like I'm doing the right thing that I need to do to get me to a place where my car is safe and I can be more functional.
That's right. That's right. No, that's very, very important. And so with the budget, once we started doing the budget, okay, so it's important to note that as far as take-home wise, you're working off of about $2,500. And from that, you still got to pay rent, and she, you know, just because she's living at home doesn't mean that she's not paying rent. So she's paying rent, and she has, you know, other regular bills. Now, debt, she does not have a lot of debt, just to make note of that. You know, you don't have a car loan and that type of thing. So it really came down to just, you know, how do we manage with what we have and then be able to build up savings and spend differently. It's the same money in this 10-month time period. It's just that now she has a different mindset because we've used strategies to help her get there. But then that combined with giving her different strategies to be able to manage her money differently. So that's the one thing I want people to understand, that, you know, it's one thing you can put somebody's numbers on a budget and say, here, follow this. But if you don't fix the root issues that cause the person to get there in the first place, the mental has to go along with the physical activity. All of that goes hand in hand for ultimately having a lifestyle change. You know, people want financial freedom. But go ahead, what were you going to say?
It's a lesson in mindfulness, I think. Like, I think that as adults, when we're locked into our job, we feel like that's the only thing we need to be mindful of, and then there's other things that get lost along the way. But that is definitely the one for me, and I had to change how I thought about it, or when I thought about it, and had to keep myself within a certain range. I know I had a range to keep myself into, and it comes down to being more mindful and being you know, specific in your mindfulness.
Absolutely.
About how you're doing it, being intentional. That's what I'm trying to think. And being intentional in your mindfulness about it. And have I always stayed within my thing? No, here and there. I've spent more a little on this and less a little on that. But then like I said, I haven't kept up with putting in my budget to our spreadsheet, but I have kept up with doing my budget.
Right.
So the numbers, helping me put in the numbers or going through the numbers and putting them in for a while got me into the routine of being used to what the numbers are.
Right.
So that repetition is what teaches you. So
Absolutely.
you have to keep doing something, and then some. For me, sometimes when I know I can do it, the other part of it is just like blah blah blah. So
and you did do a lot of that. Everything, you were pretty compliant on this first half of the thing, like you said, which got you to where now you can relax a little bit in terms of, I have to do every single number, but you still are, what your numbers are, So for example, with the groceries, for example, we set your budget in the beginning at $80 a pay period. For groceries, because I know sometimes people are wondering, well, how much should I, if it's just for me, how much should I be spending? And some of that depends, because you got some people that are more health conscious and they're eating, more organic, this, that, the other, and all of that. And then you have some people that are just shopping, I'll call it normal. But with the grocery budget, do you think that was a hard transition for you, trying to stay within staying within that $80? I'm sure I told you to take it out in cash. I don't remember if you did initially.
I think my personal was coming out in cash. My personal was coming out in cash, and then I do the pickup for my online orders and stuff for that.
So you're doing online grocery shopping.
Correct.
Okay.
And that helped me keep my numbers in, because then I can see the numbers as they're coming up in the online in the app.
It's the
I can
same
see.
as adding up your groceries, because it's showing you the total.
Yeah. Instead of putting things in the cart when you have a cart in front of you, it doesn't total it up yet. Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
But it was helpful to be able to see that and to switch to that, so that I could stay within a certain thing. Then I could see what is on sale, and I was able to see what's on there. And it did help to have things out in cash for my personal stuff.
Yeah.
And to be able, the tough thing for me was to stop ordering food. And to
well, I'm sure a whole lot of people shaking their head on that one.
Yes. Well, you know what? The thing is, I work, and I feel like I should be able to eat if I want to eat. But it's not everything. It's not anything too expensive. I'm not going out for like caviar every day.
Right.
It's like, I work hard. I'm gonna eat well. I'm gonna eat well, and. So
you had to make adjustments in that area.
Absolutely.
Because you were eating out more.
I can do both more now. And I want to also add that, a part of me staying at home is I am eating food with my mom, and I am, we are gotten to a place where we are sharing more fridge space together. And it is something that has also been a work in progress as we're going together as people living in a house together. And that has helped us both. And I think as I have discussed with her about why I make certain financial decisions or why I have, we've both adjusted in ways that have helped us to be able to spend less money on certain things. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's been a transition, not just for you, but for your relationship with your mom.
Absolutely. Because I think she feels like I'm understanding more, and she sees me as, I feel like she sees me in a little bit more relaxed way, as being able to take care of myself when if God forbid again, something happens. And I feel like she feels proud of me, and that we're in a place where like she's confident that I can do these things, and like she still wants me to go for a degree, and go back and get my master's, and go back and do this, and I know I want to be able to, and that's can always be in the future, But I, hopefully also it won't be the only way that preschool teachers start getting paid better, because we need to get paid better.
No, I agree with you. So I went back and pulled up your 2-month your homework from 10 months ago. Part of that homework process was she had to do a 2-month look back at her spending habits. And so at that time, your eating out for 1 month was $516. Is that crazy or what?
And that's that, and that's like DoorDash and all that, and then also groceries coming through delivery instead, and
well, the groceries were on a separate line. No, you had so you had some Kaiser meds there too, but I see what you're saying, but $516, and then you had shopping for $354. It's important for them to understand this because of where you are now, like, for them to appreciate
and it's
to be able to appreciate how you got to $7,000. Like it's to some people they might say, oh well that's cool, like she got to $7,000 and this and that.
Yeah.
But I want people to understand that to go for me to tell her that for her personal allowance she can only have $80 for the 2-week time period.
And this is in the beginning.
Right, in the beginning.
We've been able to increase afterwards.
Absolutely. But I'm saying to say that you can have $80 was a major transition for you because you were used to spending $700 or $800.
Yeah.
So for me to say,
and it's not on just one or two things. That was on lots of little things that added up to a big amount.
Of course,
it wasn't just.
Look, you don't owe them an explanation. It is several line items.
But
I am looking at it.
It is what it is. Is what it
right,
is.
Right. It is several line items. I mean, you were doing some things back then. That's the way you used to do things with your money.
Yeah, but and
so now
seeing that. And then being able to see that change through the spreadsheet and entering my numbers, helped me get into a better place of how I'm spending it.
Yeah, I think some people I probably just scared them because they're probably for some people they're probably thinking like, okay, wait, did she just say she went down from spending $800 down to $80? Well, $160 because that will be for the month. Because we're talking about for the whole month, so $160. But for some people, that might scare them. The idea if they're used to spending $2, then they're probably like, "Oh my gosh, she would want me to cut. I'm not going to see her. She's gonna want me to cut my spending down to $160." Well, it varies. Depends on the individual. Yeah. There's no one set number. There's no one set plan. Everybody's plan has to be different, catered to them and what their goals are. And in your case, you had specific goals that you wanted to be able to achieve. One of which was to be able to save. So that's why we're kind of really focusing on that for the moment because that was such a really big deal. Yeah. But in order for you to be able to save, that means you got to spend less. Yeah. And you were willing to do that. So like, again, that's a very, very big deal that I'm just, so proud of you. And I didn't want to gloss over that. Yeah. I wanted people to really get that and understand that, you got to make some sacrifices if these other things you're saying are more important.
Correct.
Correct.
And, part of that also was... I wasn't at that point. I wasn't sharing kitchen space with my mom. I felt we had a few house issues upstairs that hadn't been taken care of in a while that needed to be addressed. Right. And I have a certain amount of heebie-jeebies about things. Sure. So I just didn't want to be in the kitchen. So I decided to eat out more often, and a big part of changing that was also speaking with my mother about the problem, and to call somebody in to take care of it, so that we no longer have that problem. And now I feel like it's a better space to be in, and now and part of a lot of it had to do with the fact that when we were younger, we also had a bout of this problem, but it lasted much, much longer, and with some creepy crawlies, and it was embarrassing as a kid. It was
life circumstances,
life circumstances, but it is what it is, and as adults together, my mom and I addressed it, and were able to talk about how that impacted me financially, and how that we want to get to a better place. And so a lot of things changed within that. And, my mom had things happen to her that helped her open her eyes about it. And we're both doing better as ladies growing older together. And it is, it's a relief to be able to kind of be in a more understanding place with us together. Yeah, absolutely. So now you have gotten to where you have freed up at least $1,000 a month of cash flow, which was definitely not the case before. And so, what do you feel is next on your goal list? Like I know we have retirement to work on. We're still working on some things. We're not done yet. We just have gotten to a really good place to where you are shifted in your thinking, and you're doing really, really well with tracking your numbers, keeping up with where you're supposed to be and that type of thing. So I think didn't you tell me you needed to buy a car or something, or we'll have to at some point? Yeah, I'm in a 2012. So it eventually will need something just to cost me $1,100 to repair this, that, and the other thing. Right. And so, eventually I'm going to need something that's a little bit more updated. And
if anybody wants to bless Linda with a car, she's open to receive blessings.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
absolutely.
I'm just saying. That's not a handout. We said it's led to bless somebody. Yeah, you never know. You got to put it out there. You didn't ask for that. That's just me doing that because I know that.
my name, please.
Hey, people bless people all the time, and you just never know who might be listening that just is inspired by your story and might decide, you know what?
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
gonna bless her with a car because she's driving a 2012 and she's been faithful to that 2012
my
car.
My RAV4 has taken me through a lot.
Yeah.
But
you never know. You never know.
It makes some noises now.
It makes some noises.
It makes some noises now.
And it's not saying hallelujah.
No.
It's making some
calling
noises.
out.
Okay.
It's calling out
It's
for help.
calling out.
But
I gotcha.
But it's
so you're gonna have to buy a car at some point. Is
exactly.
The point. And so we'll have to start planning for that. I know we still have some.
I think I was wanting to have a couple vacations, but then I had to redirect those because of happenstance and family and this, that, and the other thing.
Speaking of, you did a staycation.
I did a staycation, and I was able to do things to my house that I needed to do. My mom and I are in the process of clearing out a lot of stuff in our basement. Years and years of accumulated things.
Right.
And
you renovated your room, right?
I renovated my room. I was able to finally paint my room that had been patched with stuff for about a year, and I hadn't done it. And because being a teacher, you come home and I just have to turn off. I had to turn off, and so the staycation and having money to do stuff on the staycation afforded me time to actually focus on myself and focus on my environment and how I need to keep myself. And I love the way it turned out. It's a very, very cozy space now. I'm just working on getting my carpet. But it's one of those things I wouldn't have been able to think about doing at another point. I also have
on the radar.
Correct. Also, I have slowly but surely been able to buy myself my own furniture. I've come from a point where everything was like a hand-me-down from everybody in the house, and it wasn't something that was me. It wasn't something that I chose for me. It was just a piece of furniture that we had that I am now using.
Okay.
So
that's
I've
wonderful.
I've now been able to replace all my stuff, and I'm working on being able to set up a proper office and art area for me, so that having my teacher stuff is not all in my bed as I'm cutting things late at night and finding papers and scissors everywhere.
But now you can plan.
But now I can plan for things.
And you can put it on your budget.
And I can put it on there, and I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had been continuing in
the same pattern.
And did not become intentionally mindful about what I was doing. But it really did take the right kind of help and the right kind of encouragement, just like with everybody.
Sure.
To be able to do things, and you've been patient with me, so
Well,
I appreciate it, because I'm learning things about myself as a teacher as I go along, and like I mentioned, being part of feeling like they say that a lot of people who self-diagnose as on spectrum usually are on spectrum. So while I haven't gotten it done, I know that there is something there that was different that I should have had help with a long time ago. That it should those supports and understanding education now and knowing the kind of supports that children have for it is so heartening, because I can have hope that the kids will have more help than we did, because we never had this kind of help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to be able to have access to it. We're just you be quiet and you stay quiet.
Exactly.
And
so I do want to ask you a question about your animal care. Can you explain what you do with the whole animal care thing?
Okay, so I have my family. I'll say this because it's been in my family forever. My family loves animals, and ever since we were young, my mom and dad are both very nature and garden involved, and we've had animals injured that have come. My parents have helped us rehabilitate, and we've had so many pets over the years. But it was always kind of part of the wild that was around us.
Yeah.
And so right now I have 2 cats inside, and I have a large tank of fish. And then we also have cats that live around our house, our neighborhood cats that we've one of them had some babies underneath our sunroom, and
Mm-hmm.
we ended up feeding some of them,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the family of but we've had them spayed and neutered, of course, because spay and neuter your pets or anybody's
Mm-hmm.
that they're out and about. But it was we were able to. My mom takes some control of it too, so she
Mhm.
helps me pay for some of the food and everything. But
So
I
you're
still
like
have
the
to take.
neighborhood feeder, so to speak.
Yeah, but part of there's a group of people that are actually from the neighborhood that are able to do this. There's somebody that helped me to catch and release.
Gotcha.
You know, so but you know, being able to be part of that community and being able to contribute to it has been rewarding in and of itself. And
Yeah.
I feel like also being able to try to have this budgeted out helped me get to better products. I have actually switched over to a different product now for litter inside
Okay.
that is saving money and also saving us having to throw it
Yeah.
into the trash can. It's actually flushable,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's good.
yeah,
Because we were, you know,
and it helped on the cost. It's
Okay.
like because animals are expensive, and you need to
and
be able
they
to pay
are.
for them.
And
because
that right there. Yeah.
things happen, and you got to take care of them, and they're
Yeah.
lifelong situations. So
Mhm.
even when things come up, where we had a outside cat that had an injury that we had to just we called him in, and I ended up giving some money to that. And I was able to be able to offer that to them because it was expensive. These things cost money for the animals too.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, you didn't really have a set budget for
No.
that. You were just kind of, helping and whenever
Yeah.
you felt like helping, basically.
And I think that's a lot of part of a big part of my financial plan is that.
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
that
Well, the
wanting
reason-
to help.
Right. The reason that, and there's a reason I brought that up
Yeah.
because a lot of times people have different things. In this case, your passion is for the animals,
Mhm.
for the pets, and for other people, it's other things. It's other things that they have passion about that they want to give to. Sometimes I have families that are sending money back home to families, and just different things that people like to contribute, and they just kind of give. Without any
And I think I've always
budget.
I've always kind of been like that with my family and friends. If I
Mhm.
have something to give, I will offer probably more than I should give, and I will give more than I should give. I kind of get that from my mom. She's always kind of been able to help where she can. She will help, and that includes financially, and that has been a good thing and a bad thing.
Right.
But it's something that I've seen all my life and I've had modeled for
Yeah.
me. So even with the little that I had, if somebody needed something or I wanted to get somebody a gift, I'd be like, I would get you something, even if it was handmade, but it was something that I should probably have spent less on. But
Well,
it's
I think the key factor for you though is
it's
the
the
transition
helping.
you've made
Mhm.
is that you didn't stop giving or helping with the pets. We just changed how you give.
correct.
We just kind of got a little bit more organized to it and said, okay, I remember saying, all right, Linda, we got to set a number to
Yeah.
this. Like we got to, you got to come up with a number for per pay period
Yeah.
that you're agreeing to, not spending more than to,
Correct.
contribute towards this. And you did, you stepped
Just
up to
like
the plate
in-
with that.
Just like in everything, there's a place for everything and everything has its place.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those things where you have to do with your money too. It has to be
Right.
something where you try to get things where they are. And while that is easy for some people to process and go through, it's not for other people.
Right.
And,
Right.
And
It's
having,
always delicate,
Yeah.
when you're talking about helping someone or helping towards a cause for people or animals that are
Mhm.
less fortunate, not getting everything they need, or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. It's a delicate topic because, they're thinking, oh, they need it, but also you still have to take care of yourself too. You still have a responsibility with what
Yes.
you've been given to manage it well. So,
Correct.
it's trying to find that balance between how do I manage what I've been given well in a way that I'm able to take care of myself, but also still be able to be a blessing
Yes.
to others,
Yes.
So, and I think you have done really, really well with that. So,
Mhm.
so anyway, I just want to thank you again for coming today. It has been wonderful hanging out with you.
Thank you. I always loved hanging out with you anyways because we sit and talk about everything.
Right.
And even in the short amount of time we have together, we talk about everything, and she listens. and she cares, and she takes
She
notes.
said, "I listen."
She listens, and being listened to is important.
It is.
Is important. Being
Yeah.
respected and understood is something that people don't give out a lot, and but being respected and understood is so important as every human being.
Yeah.
Every human being should be able to have that feeling, and it's hard to be able to find people sometimes.
That's right.
That want to do that.
Yeah.
Because people want, I don't know, maybe it's the rat race, but we are all programmed to just go, and people don't have time for processing.
Hey, we gotta make time.
We gotta
People make time for what they
process.
really want, and the thing is, if you really want to be in a better financial position, you can. And on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and end for today. But thank you guys so much. Please tune in, like, share, all of that, and please catch us next time for the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.